Hello, Lakers Nation. Welcome back to Crazy About the Lakers, your home for the latest Lakers news, trade rumors, breaking updates, and everything happening around the purple and gold. If you're a true Lakers fan, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a thing. Now, let's get right into today's update. The Los Angeles Lakers are expected to be as busy as any team in the NBA this offseason, with the storied franchise focused on building around superstar guard Luka Doncic. After years of shuffling rosters around aging stars, the Lakers finally find themselves with real financial flexibility and draft capital to work with. And the front office, led by President of Basketball Operations Rob Pelinka, appears determined to use every bit of it. This summer represents a pivotal moment for a franchise trying to transition fully into the Doncic era while figuring out what role, if any, LeBron James will play going forward. One major point of emphasis for the Lakers is upgrading the center position, with Doncic himself asking the team to try to acquire an A-list center, which will be a difficult task, to say the least, considering the options available. The Lakers have already begun taking steps in that direction, reportedly meeting with free agent big man Walker Kessler to open the free agency period, while also monitoring the situation involving restricted free agent Jalen Duren. Neither pursuit figures to be simple. Kessler is expected to have a robust market as one of the more sought-after rim protectors available, and any offer sheet for Duren would require Detroit to make a difficult decision about matching. Complicating matters further, incumbent starter DeAndre Ayton has reportedly exercised his $8.1 million player option for next season, which keeps him under contract for 2026 to 27, but also makes him trade eligible if the front office decides to pursue an upgrade rather than build around him. Ayton provided solid value on a below-market deal last season, but his fit alongside a ball-dominant playmaker like Doncic and a high-usage scorer like Austin Reaves has been questioned by some evaluators, leaving the door open for Los Angeles to look elsewhere at the position even as it explores bringing in another year of production from him as insurance. Along with bolstering the frontcourt with an elite big man, the Lakers are also looking for 3 and D wings this summer, with a potential option emerging in the form of Cam Johnson of the Denver Nuggets. According to Michael Scotto of Hoops Hype, Johnson has drawn trade interest from the Lakers and several other teams around the league. As the Nuggets navigate getting below the second luxury tax apron, the sharpshooting forward has become one of the more coveted names on the trade market this offseason, with interest reportedly coming from the Lakers, Boston Celtics, Miami Heat, Los Angeles Clippers, and Orlando Magic. The 30-year-old forward shot career highs from the field at .480 and from beyond the arc at .430 this past season, and he is entering the final year of a 4-year, $94.5 million contract that will pay him roughly $23.06 million in 2026 to 27. That expiring salary is precisely what makes him such an attractive trade chip, both for teams hoping to add shooting on a short-term basis and for teams like Denver looking to shed money without attaching future draft compensation. The Nuggets acquired Johnson a year ago in a surprising trade that sent Michael Porter Jr. and a first-round draft pick to the Brooklyn Nets. At the time, the move was viewed as a way for Denver to add shooting and two-way versatility around Nikola Jokic while offloading a big, long-term salary in Porter. The results, however, did not unfold the way Denver's front office likely envisioned. Porter went on to have a career year in Brooklyn, thriving in an expanded offensive role, while Johnson struggled to make the same kind of impact in a crowded Nuggets rotation. His scoring average dropped from 18.8 points per game with the Nets to just 12.2 points per game in Denver, his lowest output since his second NBA season, when he averaged 9.5 points per game. Across 54 games this past season, Johnson averaged 12.2 points, 3.8 rebounds, and 2.4 assists, numbers that look modest on paper but obscure just how efficient he was whenever he did get looks. That inefficiency in usage rather than shot-making is a big part of why rival executives still view him as a valuable trade target rather than a player in decline. Even though Johnson is coming off a lower-scoring season by his own standards, there is a real chance he could have a bounce-back campaign wherever he lands next, and Los Angeles in particular looks like a promising landing spot, given how his skill set would complement Doncic. Despite the dip in points per game, Johnson shot a career-high 48% from the field and 43% from beyond the three-point line, marks that place him among the most efficient movement shooters in the league. He is also an excellent free throw shooter, converting 84.9% from the line for his career, which speaks to a smooth, repeatable shooting stroke that should travel well regardless of role or team. For a Lakers offense increasingly built around Doncic's gravity as a pick-and-roll and pull-up threat, a shooter of Johnson's caliber projects as close to an ideal fit, someone who can space the floor, relocate off movement, and punish opposing defenses for overhelping on Doncic or Reeves. He would give Los Angeles another release valve capable of hitting from all three levels, something the roster has occasionally lacked around its top playmakers. However, he does come with some injury concerns worth weighing, as he has only played more than 60 games twice over the course of his 7-year NBA career, which is obviously not ideal for a team hoping to build a reliable rotation piece it can count on for 70-plus games a season. Johnson has dealt with a string of nagging injuries throughout his career, from wrist issues to hamstring and groin strains, and durability remains the clearest red flag on an otherwise appealing profile. Any team acquiring him, whether on an expiring deal or with an eye toward a future extension, will have to factor in the very real possibility that he misses stretches of the season, which could complicate roster planning for a Lakers team that will already be relying heavily on continuity and chemistry around Doncic. It is clear to see why the Lakers would have interest in Johnson, even with the durability question marks, but it remains to be seen whether anything comes to fruition in trade talks with the Nuggets, especially with a crowded field of suitors now reportedly in the mix. The Lakers are believed to be among the most engaged teams in the conversation, with names like Marcus Smart, who holds a player option of his own, Jared Vanderbilt, and Jake LaRavia mentioned as potential salary matching or asset pieces Los Angeles could use to construct an offer. If Los Angeles is willing to attach any of that group, or simply absorb Johnson's expiring money using cap space rather than a matching salary, it is possible a deal could be completed without the Lakers needing to include significant draft compensation, and they might even be positioned to extract additional value from Denver in the process for helping the Nuggets clear money off the books. The Celtics represent a different kind of threat in the market. Boston is viewed as a team worth monitoring in a larger, more complex trade scenario, since the Celtics may not have the same collection of inexpensive, movable role players to offer that Los Angeles or other suitors do. That has led to speculation about whether Denver could look to get more creative, potentially exploring the framework of a deal that would send a more established Boston piece, such as Derek White or Jaylen Brown, back to the Nuggets, though that kind of blockbuster remains speculative at this stage. Notably, according to reporting from Mark Stein and Jake Fisher, Nuggets officials have at least internally discussed whether they possess the trade assets necessary to make a run at Jaylen Brown, even though league sources indicate Denver has not yet formally engaged Boston on that front. Any scenario involving a marquee Celtics wing would be a far more significant swing than simply moving Johnson for role players, and it underscores just how aggressively Denver's front office may be willing to remake its roster this summer. Miami's involvement adds another layer of intrigue, though the Heat's ability to put together a compelling package has reportedly been diminished somewhat following their trade for Giannis Antetokounmpo, which thinned out their tradable assets. Still, if Miami were willing to move a player like Davion Mitchell as part of a broader package, it is a deal that could hold appeal for a Denver front office focused on shedding money rather than necessarily maximizing draft pick return. The Clippers and Magic round out the list of known suitors, and while neither situation has been fleshed out publicly in as much detail, both franchises have been previously connected to Johnson going back to his time in Brooklyn, when teams across the league recognized his value as a playmaking wing shooter who does not need the ball in his hands to be effective. For Denver, the motivation behind exploring a Johnson trade extends well beyond simply wanting to move on from an underwhelming statistical season. The Nuggets are trying to navigate the punitive restrictions of the NBA's second luxury tax apron, while also working to retain rising forward Peyton Watson, a restricted free agent who has emerged as one of the organization's most important building blocks alongside Jokic. Watson is coming off a breakout campaign in which he averaged 14.6 points per game, while shooting 49.1% from the field and 41.1% from beyond the arc, numbers that have made him a priority retention target even as his market value climbs. League sources have indicated that Denver has been signaling for months that it intends to match any competitive offer sheet for Watson, with some suggesting it would take an offer in the neighborhood of $30 million annually before the Nuggets would even consider letting him walk. That commitment to keeping Watson only heightens the urgency to create financial breathing room elsewhere on the roster. And Johnson's large, expiring salary represents perhaps the cleanest and easiest way to do that without touching the core of the team built around Jokic and Jamal Murray. There is also a bigger picture storyline shaping Denver's calculus. Three-time MVP Nikola Jokic could reportedly hold off on signing a contract extension for a second consecutive offseason, adding pressure on the front office to show him a roster capable of competing at the highest level for years to come. Every transaction the Nuggets make this summer, including any potential Johnson trade, will likely be viewed through the lens of convincing their franchise centerpiece that Denver remains fully committed to building a contender around him. Moving Johnson for pieces that fit better around Jokic and Murray, or simply clearing the runway to retain Watson, would be consistent with that broader goal, even if it means absorbing a step back defensively or in shooting depth in the short term. From the Lakers' perspective, the pursuit of Johnson fits into a much larger offseason blueprint. Los Angeles is expected to enter the summer with significant cap space, aided in part by LeBron James potentially departing and taking his roughly $52.6 million salary off the books, along with control over multiple tradable future first-round picks, reportedly in 2026, 2031, and 2033. That combination of flexibility and draft capital puts the Lakers in one of the strongest positions in the league to reshape their roster around Doncic and Reeves. Beyond Johnson, the front office has also been linked to stretch 5 free agent Jock Landale, who is expected to draw strong interest across the league after shooting 38.8% from three-point range over the past two seasons split between Memphis and Atlanta, along with averaging 10.6 points and 5.7 rebounds per game last season. Neither Johnson nor Landale would represent a headline-grabbing star addition, but both would address specific needs, shooting, and secondary size that the Lakers have identified as priorities this offseason as they try to surround Doncic with as much shooting, spacing, and two-way reliability as possible. Ultimately, the Lakers' interest in Cam Johnson reflects the broader philosophy Los Angeles appears to be embracing this summer. Rather than chasing another marquee star to pair with Doncic, the front office seems intent on filling out the roster with proven, complementary pieces who can maximize his and Reeves' playmaking. Johnson checks a lot of those boxes as an accurate, low-maintenance shooter who can defend multiple positions on the wing, even if his health history introduces some uncertainty into how much he can be relied upon over an 82-game season. Whether the Lakers ultimately have enough in their asset pool to separate themselves from Boston, Miami, the Clippers, and Orlando in the race for his services remains one of the more compelling subplots of an NBA offseason that has already produced its share of surprises, from Antetokounmpo's move to Miami to a wave of star movement involving players like Julius Randle and LaMelo Ball. As free agency and trade talks continue to unfold in the coming weeks, all eyes will be on whether Denver pulls the trigger on a Johnson deal, and if so, which of his many suitors ends up landing the sharpshooting forward heading into the final year of his contract. There is also the question of timing. Expiring contracts of Johnson's magnitude, generally in the $18 million to $25 million range, tend to hold their value throughout the offseason because so many teams are hunting for exactly that kind of flexible salary filler once free agency settles down and rosters start taking shape. That dynamic gives Denver some leverage to wait for the best possible offer rather than rushing into a deal simply to beat a deadline, even as the pressure to clear space for Watson's new contract looms in the background. For the Lakers, the calculus is somewhat different. Every week that passes without a center addition raises the stakes on that particular need, and Pelinka's front office will have to decide how much of its remaining cap room and trade capital it wants to commit to a wing upgrade like Johnson versus holding those resources in reserve for a bigger swing at the 5 spot. Balancing those two priorities, addressing Doncic's request for an A-list big man, while also rounding out the perimeter, may end up shaping not just whether the Lakers land Johnson, but the entire complexion of the roster they ultimately build around their two all-star guards heading into next season. Let us know in the comments if you think Cam Johnson is a good option for the Lakers. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.